Okay, so you're on Presentation IO, right? So you should be following along with me as we review this, because this is just a review. And if you have any questions or concerns or something you want to discuss, just post it on the right where it says presentation discussion and post. But remember, everything you post, I can see. All right, question?
Make it smaller.
You can move it in, I think. Okay. I don't know. All right, so we're talking about, you came up with your reasons, right? You picked a side. So now the most important part of the essay is your evidence. And everything, this is all review, right? So the first type, there's all different ways to prove what you want to prove, right? So why don't you tell the person next to you, actually post where it says discussion, and tell me all different ways to prove your thesis. What are the different types of evidence? So go ahead and do that now on your doc. So you shared the different types of evidence. So all I want to do today is I want to review the type of evidence, and then you're going to practice. All right? So a lot of you said the first type is an explanation. All right? So sometimes your reason that you're using to support your thesis needs an explanation. All right? And you have to explain that. Does every reason require an explanation? No, not at all. So if you look at my example, go ahead and read it to yourself. And if you have any questions, please make sure you put them in the little discussion section of the presentation IO. So basically, the reason teachers will lose money, sometimes people might read this, the reader, and say, wait, I don't get it. Okay, so you're telling me because they got rid of these extracurricular activities, the teachers are going to lose money? So then what you would have to do is you'd have to give an explanation. So if you look at this explanation, it says, many of the staff here at Eisenhower coach sports or serve as an advisor for clubs. These staff members receive a stipend for doing these things. No, not $1 million, but it is a good chunk of change. If you eliminate all extracurricular activities, these teachers' income will be decreased. Some teachers rely on this extra money to pay their bills, mortgage, daycare for their children, car payments. Come on, you know how it is. Bills are never ending. So I explained it. What other writing crafts did I use in there that is a compositional risk? So what else am I doing in there? Why don't you go ahead and write it on the discussion and post it? So what else am I doing in there that makes this writing really kind of good? So let's talk about these extra special crafts that are extras that basically show that you took a compositional risk. Yes? The intentional fragments, right? So I have mortgage, daycare, car payments. Give me another compositional risk. You guys, you have it on your discussion board on your documents, so you should look there. So this is great because even if you were not sure of the answer, you're going to learn the answer from somebody else. So what else did other people put there that you say to yourself, yeah, you know what, that's right, that is a compositional risk. Yes? Talking to the audience. The very last sentence says, come on, you know how it is. Bills are never ending. So audience, they like that. They want to feel like they're part of the reading. All right? So those are two of the compositional risks that are taken in this explanation. All right. So besides, actually, here's another example. Go ahead and read this explanation and see if you have any comments about this. Let's look at some of these discussions that you guys were having. So one thing one person said was, Quincy was saying, well, what about, you're talking to the audience, but what if you were saying, what if the audience were kids, right? That's a valid point, but, Jordan, what did you say back to him?
I said the audience is the principal.
What's that?
The audience.
The audience is the principal, because we already knew that, because whenever you write, before you write, you have to determine your audience, because the way you're going to speak is the way you're going to, it depends upon your audience. Let me tell you a little story. So I applied for graduate school, right? You get your bachelor's degree, then you go back to school again. So I had to write this essay. And I love creative writing. I love all these intentional fragments and these personification. So I had to write an essay about myself. So I thought the essay was great. Guess what? It was not so great. Because the professor, the teacher who emailed me back, his response was that I'm getting influenced by these day-to-day writings, like these writings where they use all these compositional risks. And I guess when you're in grad school, you don't want to write in that kind of way. It's more of a formal way of writing. So now, not that he said I have to go back and totally rewrite the entire thing, I just have to get rid of those intentional fragments that I thought would be really good. Get rid of those similes that I'm using and be a lot more formal, right? So now, if you're writing to, so what was the whole point of this? Oh, audience, thinking about your audience. All right. What was another point? So if I'm looking at here, so some people were saying they're actually debating the whole reason. Like somebody said, who said, okay, how are the students going to become less fit when they're only losing out on, who said that? You said that. What did you say? Somebody, if you look on the comments, go down. It said,
It's only like a month.
yeah, it's only a month. It's only a season, right? Like, are they really going to get less fit?
That's what happens. And they can work out at home.
And they can work at home, all right? So now, I totally can see your argument. Is there anything else? All right. So now, so you guys understand explanation. You don't always need an explanation. All right. The next type of evidence that you are aware of that we're just reviewing are these mini stories, okay? So mini story, you got to tell the beginning, the middle, the end. You have to use the language of the disciplines. You have to make sure it's angled to prove what you're trying to prove. So go ahead and read this model, and if you see anything that you want to comment on, feel free. All right, so looking at this little mini story, anybody have any discussions? Anything they want to say? What compositional risks were taken? What crafts are being used? Yes? Nope, that's not a craft. So everybody right now, go to your little discussion, and I want you to post as many crafts that you notice in this mini story. All right, so looking at some of your posts, I see some things that are right and some things that are wrong. All right, first of all, is evidence... What's that?
I meant that the other way.
Okay, Carly meant that the other way around. Is a craft... Is evidence... I'm sorry, is a mini story a craft?
No.
Greg, is a mini story a craft?
I'm hearing.
Okay. So crafts are something special that you do. So I see that one person wrote a simile. But show me, where is there a simile? Read me the simile. So a simile compares two things using like or as. So where is the simile in here? Yes? I don't see one. Some people, as I look at the little discussion here, some people said there was a metaphor. There is. Where is that at?
It says that this greatly affected my neighbor Jamie, and then it went on.
Okay, but a metaphor compares two unlike things. My neighbor is an angel. So what is... read me the line that is a metaphor. Read me the line that's a metaphor. Go ahead.
This greatly affected my neighbor Jamie, who is not only a teacher there, but also a class clown.
Okay, that's not a metaphor. Guys, remember what a metaphor is? She was a prisoner in her home. Okay, you're comparing her to a prisoner in a home. There's no metaphors here. So in this discussion, what I need to start seeing more of is if you see somebody has the incorrect answer, you got to hold them accountable. You need to say in a respectful way, hey, this is a metaphor. A metaphor is this. There's none of those in that mini story. I did see, now some people are saying there's a hyperbole. Where's their hyperbole?
That's what?
Where's their hyperbole?
I thought it was hyperbole.
So, anybody see a hyperbole? I don't see one either. The only thing I do see that somebody wrote was I was talking to the audience. Where do you see me talking to the audience? Read me the line. Go ahead.
Now for you, Mr. Principal.
You got it. Now for you, Mr. Principal. Okay? So here's another model of a mini story to refresh your memory. Go ahead and read that on your own. If you have any comments, please comment in your little discussion. But do me a favor. If you see somebody is not correct in their thinking, I need you to respectfully correct them and lead them the right way. All right, so let's look at some of the discussion posts here. So Danielle is saying, okay, why is the principal going, where is it? Going to care if she pays the teachers or not, because then she loses money for the school. Thoughts on that? So you're almost disagreeing with the reason. You're saying that the reason is not really, it doesn't really appeal to the audience. Any thoughts on that? Agree, disagree? I kind of disagree. Because, I mean, the principal, she does care for her teachers. She doesn't want her teachers to lose money. She generally cares. Go ahead.
Wouldn't she care more about, like, the students getting what they need more than the teachers getting extra money?
Yes, she definitely would care more about the students getting what they need versus the teachers getting extra money. So yes, now I changed my mind. So what writing crafts do you see? Name it out. Go ahead. Greg.
Personification.
Read me the personification.
It says wrestling was a wrestling that motivated this healthy lifestyle.
Okay, so tell me, what is personification?
Personification is when you give a human trait to a non-living thing.
Okay, so give me an example of personification.
What did I say then?
Giving a human trait to a non-human thing. So let's say
I got walls staring at me.
the what?
Walls staring.
The walls were staring at me. Okay, so walls don't really stare, people stare. You have another one? What?
That ball. Him and I.
Okay. So if we're thinking about the wall staring at me, or the computer wouldn't stop annoying me. All right. So can you, now that you understand, like now that I refresh your memory about personification, can you tell me, is there personification in this mini story?
Yeah.
Okay. So read me the line.
I just said.
Read it again.
It was the wrestling that motivated this healthy lifestyle.
Oh, so it was the wrestling.
That motivated this healthy lifestyle.
Where does that say? Read me that. Start from the very first sentence of that.
Here, it was the wrestling.
Okay, it was the wrestling that motivated this. Oh, yeah, I get it, yeah. Yep. All right, so wrestling doesn't really motivate, like people motivate each other. All right, so we have personification. What else do we have? Yes?
That's what I
Sure. But listen to me. Am I going to let you know that on my mini story? No, I have to angle it. I'm only going to bring up facts that, like, kind of go prove my thesis. So, yeah, of course I could argue against this, but I'm not going to let anybody know that. So we have personification. What else do we have? Is that it?
No.
Yes.
You were talking to the audience.
Absolutely, talking to the audience. Okay, so besides mini stories, we also have, you guys know this, list of examples. Okay, instead of having to go and explain every single thing, all you're going to do is just give a list of examples and briefly explain each one on a list. So, as you know, it would look something like this. So go ahead and read this on your own. All right, so in this list of examples, as you recall from previous essays, is you have to think of a list of examples that would prove your reason, right? And, you could have 5 things, but you don't have to put all of them, all right? But usually when you think of a list, you're not talking about one thing. A list is a list. So you're talking about 2 to 3 things on a list, all right? So in this particular case, it says there are numerous teachers who depend upon this extra money. For example, Mr. Foreman, a math teacher here at Eisenhower, coaches baseball and wrestling and advises student government and the academic team. These 4 extracurricular activities provide him with an additional income of about $8,000. Because of the extra money he earns, his wife is able to stay at home with their 3 little children. If you take away these activities, his wife will have to go back to work, and then the children will be left in daycare. Who wants someone else raising their kids? So that's my first example, but I kind of explain it a little. I'm not just listing it, but I'm explaining it. Mr. Foreman isn't the only teacher who is at risk of financial ruin. Mrs. Flickinger, who advises the school newspaper, has 2 children in college, which gives her quite a hefty tuition bill. Let's not mention the fact that her husband is in the construction business and is not always working. Do you want to be the one responsible for her children have to drop out of college because Mrs. Flickinger's family doesn't have enough money to pay for the tuition bill? I doubt it. I know you are caring individuals. Please think about what this proposal will do to the faculty and their families here at Eisenhower. Okay, so how many examples did I give? Write it down on the discussion. How many examples did I give in this list of examples? All right, so how many? Say it if you know it. Really? 3?
4.
Okay, so if there's 4, so if you look, there are 2 teachers I'm using as examples. All right, so besides a list of examples, you can give a hypothetical situation. So if you look at my notes here, all right, exit out of the discussion, you'll be able to see my notes. Remember, a hypothetical situation is a situation that could happen, but it didn't. So you have to make sure that you let the reader know that this is fake. So you could say something like, picture this, imagine this, or you could say something like, let's say there's this kid named Joe, etc. All right? So now go ahead and read this example to yourself. All right. So what you're going to do now is you're going to go back to the original, what you did in the beginning of the class. So go to that document, which should still be open, and look at your reasons, okay, whether you were for or against this situation. But I want you to pick one of your reasons that you're going to develop into a well thought out body paragraph. So what you're going to do is, remember, when you write the body paragraph, okay, so I'm not talking about the introduction. We're not writing the introduction right now, and I'm not talking about the conclusion. So in the body paragraphs, each paragraph is a reason. So this would be paragraph number 2, because the intro is paragraph number 1. So paragraph number 2 would be your first reason. Then paragraph 3 would be your next reason. And then if you have a third reason, great. Then paragraph 4 would be your next reason. And then you have your conclusion. So the only thing we're working on right now are these paragraphs. So what you're going to do is you're going to write your first body paragraph. So you have to remember, you have to have a topic sentence that states your reason. So why don't you go ahead and jot these notes down so you don't forget. So body paragraphs, be sure to abbreviate, you don't have to write everything out, must contain topic sentence that states your reason. Now, you can use a transitional sentence, or what else? If you're not quite ready for a transitional sentence, what then would you use? Yes. You got it. Transitional word. Then you're going to have your evidence. All right, so as much evidence as it takes, and you're going to have this in the form of mini stories, hypothetical, explanation, list of examples. And then you need to have a clincher. And the clincher is the closing sentence that sums up your reason. So what I want you to do now is pick one of your reasons that you're going to prove with as much evidence that you can think of. And when you go to write that, you're going to start off with either a transitional sentence, use all your evidence. Make sure that when you're going from one piece of evidence to another piece of evidence, that you are using a transition and that you have a clincher, a closing sentence that sums everything up. All right? So go ahead on your document and do that now. All right. So in this example, all right, it says, all right. Okay, so we get it. The kids are littering, but is taking away activities really going to fix it? So right now, you automatically know what she's trying to prove. She's trying to say, you know what? It's not going to fix the problem. Kids are still going to do it. So let's see what evidence she uses to illustrate this point. So all eyes are up here. Think about it. Let's take little Sally here. So what is this? What kind of evidence? You got it. Every day after she gets dressed and she throws her clothes on the floor, every day after she gets dressed, she throws her clothes on the floor. Give her that and. The average parent punishment is take away something. Ooh, how bad. Say you take away her phone. Like, that's the end of the world. But let's say the only way to get her phone back is to clean up. Most kids will start cleaning up, like Sally. She started to clean, but how long does it last? Not too long, I'll tell you that. Once Sally got her phone back, she started being a mess again. That is what I'm trying to explain to you. You take away activities, the kids will stop littering, but then once you give it back, they'll just start again. Kids are like old people. They forget stuff. Why take away a kid's activity if your plan probably won't work? It doesn't make sense. Is taking away activities the real solution? So this is a pretty decent example. There's a lot of like talking to the audience, right? Rhetorical questions in there. All right? So you have to remember, when you go to write this, all right, you have to remember your body paragraphs. Number one, you have a topic sentence. You do not restate your thesis. You have like some kind of, you have all of your evidence, and then you have a clincher, which is a closing. So this is the contents of your body paragraphs. Okay? Now, what I noticed when I was walking around, some people were using very elementary transitions. What are some dead transitions to us? Yes. First. Second. Secondly.
First, is that even a word?
Yes.
Next.
Next. Also. Another. Yes. Well, yeah. Then. Lastly. You should not be using these. Not in an OEQ, not in an essay. At all. You know this. You have a list. All right? Okay? So what I want you to do is finish your body paragraphs. You have to have at least 2 to 3 reasons. All right? So go ahead.